So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Wanted to drop on, and I thought a pretty interesting article was published by The Athletic within the last 5 minutes. This is a pre-recorded podcast. Wanted to record it and get something out, but it was dropped in the last 5 minutes from The Athletic and from Chris Weatherspoon, who's their football financial writer at The Athletic. As well, and it was an interesting one, and it catalogues all of Aston Villa's or all of the Premier League's teams that are in Europe, and where they're projected, and one must say it is a loosely based projection because nobody actually knows what the revenues were and so on, but where they're projected to fall within both the football earnings rule from the Uefa and also SCR. So I thought it'd be interesting just to do a little piece on that and basically just take you guys down through the article itself. I know not everybody would be in a position to read the article, and not everybody can read the article. So it's an interesting read, and I've gotten as far as Aston Villa's, and I'm only going to go as far as Aston Villa's because I don't really care about the other clubs that are in Europe and what they're I suppose what their overarching finances are, but just to I will show you within the article, and let me just make that article a small bit bigger there so that everybody can see. That might be a bit easier, but let me just show you the outline projecting the English club's compliance with UEFA's financial rules, and every team here, as we can see, is so Aston Villa from a football earnings point of view will be deemed okay. But we were projected to fail in the squad cost ratio, but don't panic too much on that. We will speak about that in a moment, and I don't know where my background has gone. Let me bring that back. There we go. Excellent. Yeah, let's do that. Oh, sorry there. Everything is going completely wrong for me here. No, there we go. So so that's how all the teams fare out. Man City, Liverpool, Tottenham, all fine. Arsenal struggling under the squad cost. Crystal Palace struggling under the squad cost. Newcastle struggling under football earnings and squad cost. And Nottingham Forest look like to be completely in the mud. And you guys can go read the article with regards to how they feel, how the projection is for those guys there. But let's look at the Aston Villa piece here. So there are two areas that UEFA do try and police, and that is the football earnings rule, which is obviously the football earnings, and there's permutations and calculations and algorithms with regards to that do have an effect on it, which we won't go into today. We'll just go basically into the sorry. There we go. We'll go into the to the generalities of it, I suppose, here of what's written in the actual article here, and we'll read down through it. If you can bear with me, nothing seems to want to cooperate with me today. There we go. So Aston Villa breached the football earnings rule last season, which is in 2023, 2024, or 2024, 2025, should I say, which wasn't too surprising given that they lost 206 million pre-tax across 2022, 2023, and 2023, 2024. And that was before deductions for allowable costs, but also before any adjustments UEFA probably enforced upon them for the numerous player swap deals they engaged in June 2024. And we knew that was going to happen, that UEFA would adjust those numbers, round them down essentially, based on the fact that they would consider them swap deals. Douglas Luiz's move to Juventus generated significant profit and helped Aston Villa stave off a Premier League PSR breach. But the arrivals of Illing Jr. and Barnechea from Turin mean the European governing body would likely cause them to revise such profits downwards in their 2023-2024 figures. There were also other similar deals, as we know, the Lewis Dobbin and Timur Bunum deal. Villa generated significant revenue en route to the Champions League quarterfinals earlier this year, and have been active sellers in recent windows. And as a result of the sales of John Duran, Cameron Archer, Philogene, and Moussa Diaby, Villa will have improved on their 23-24 player sale profits of 64.7 million, not least because of the latter figure included amounts Uefa likely reduced in the football earning calculation. So the 64.7 million was a reduced number based on the actual outgoings we had, as they were revised down based on their football earnings calculation. So the Athletic projects Aston Villa's loss dropped significantly in 2024-2025. That's for the football earnings. A small profit might even have been made, and that in its own wouldn't be sufficient to offset the big losses of the 2 years prior. But as a result of entering into the settlement agreement, it doesn't need to. So essentially, the good thing here is all we needed to do was make a pseudo profit on football earnings over the course of the last year for us to stay within the remit of UEFA and UEFA sanctions, as per the reporting here in the Athletic. Individuals with knowledge of how the agreements work, speaking on the conditions of anonymity so they could discuss sensitive information, say that Villa's football earnings calculation for this season's assessment will only cover the 2024-2025 season. So Villa could have lost a maximum of 60 million, provided 55 million of that was covered by secure funding. We expect Villa were nowhere near that level of loss in 24-25, ensuring compliance with the football earnings rule under the terms of their settlement agreement. So Aston Villa will have, by all projections, by Chris Witherspoon's projection, by Kieran Maguire's projection, and by the very, 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 very and horrendously uneducated and rudimentary projection that I've done previously, I think that we're fine on the football earnings point of view. And that's the main one. That is what we needed to satisfy more so. We will continue to read and you'll understand why. So Villa also breached the squad cost rules in 2024, exceeding UEFA's 80% limit, and lowering to 70% is a good reason for Villa's lack of summer splurging. They were the lowest spending Premier League club on a gross basis. That lack of spending hasn't been uniform across 2025, though. January saw the arrival of 3 loan players, Marcus Rashford, Marco Asensio, and Alex Disasi, who added significantly to the wage bill, even while only at Villa Park for only half a season. And Daniel Malen signed permanently too. So we knew that. We knew the wages would have gone up because of those signings, but it was a gamble worth taking. I suppose it wouldn't have had a massive effect, but judging on what happened here, yes, it has a massive effect on the squad cost for that year and so on. And we've rectified that. So it's kind of, for me, that's a case of no point crying over spilt milk. If we don't have an Emi Martinez brain fart and we don't have Morgan Rogers' goal ruled out, which was perfectly legitimate goal, potentially Aston Villa in the Champions League. And this is all a moot point. But look, as I say, if my auntie had whatever, she'd be more whatever. Wage savings have been made elsewhere, and as mentioned, player profits too, yet with the latter being averaged over the past 3 years. So when you sell a player, it's averaged over 3 years from a football earnings point of view towards the squad cost, meaning only a third of an individual deal's profit counts towards a given year's SCR calculation. And combined with no Champions League income in the second half of 2025, it looks like Villa have again breached the squad cost ratio. The Athletic projects their squad cost ratio as notably lower than the 80% mark it exceeded in 2024, but still above the 70% mark. More positive thing for Aston Villa, and this is the main thing to listen to here, more positive thing for Aston Villa is their settlement agreement makes no reference of extra punishment for another breach of SCR. Breaching the football earnings rule would have been far more of a risk for them. To that end, if they are in breach, they can expect another fine to go alongside the ones already agreed. That is if they are in breach of the football earnings rule. List A transfer balance. Villa didn't adhere to either of those rules last season, copying an 11 million fine for their troubles, and the fine could rise by a further 50 million if Villa failed to keep to the terms agreed in their settlement agreement with UEFA, which covers the next 3 years. As part of that agreement, Villa accepted a condition whereby players could only be added to their List A squad for UEFA competition if their List A transfer balance, costs saved by players removed from the list, less new costs related to those added. So essentially the balance from those List A players, which would be your first 11 plus subs, like we wouldn't be able to take a 16-year-old from the academy and sell him for 50 million to a sister club and then bank those profits. It would have to be somebody who was on the List A squad. that has to remain positive and relative to the last submitted list in February of this year. So it would have to be from the List A squad submitted in February this year after the January transfer window. So as The Athletic explained recently, a third of profits generated on players removed from the list are also included as part of the transfer balance. So you only get credit for a third of the profits of those players, but you get another third the year after, and you get another third the year after. So it morphs into the future as well. So when we talk about the UEFA settlement agreement covering 3 years, any money that we've banked this year still rolls into next year on a 1/3 basis, and into the following year on a 1/3 basis as well. So Aston Villa's List A changes were Marco Bizot came in, Victor Lindelof came in, Andreas Garcia came in, albeit he was signed last year. He has now been added to the List A, so it's the List A changes here. Jadon Sancho has come in, Harvey Elliott, Emi Buendia has been added, Daniel Malen has been added, and Evan Gassand. Outs are Robin Olsen, Disasi, Barkley, Ramsey, Rashford, Asensio, and Leon Bailey. So reading on here, it says, for all their PSR concerns this summer, Villa were able to add a player to their List A overall, with 7 names dropping off while 8 new ones were brought on board. The new signings, Evan Gassand, Victor Lindelof, Harvey Elliott, Jadon Sancho were all included, as was Malen, who notably missed out last year. Blah, blah, blah. We just went through that there. So that's really the nuts and bolts of the article from an Aston Villa point of view. The big takeaways, I think, from this, or from me, were that I didn't understand, I suppose, how the settlement affected Aston Villa. How did that settlement affect Aston Villa? What were we, what set of rules were we playing to? And I presumed that the settlement would have had an effect on SCR, but that hasn't been the case by the reading of this article. And should we breach the squad cost ratio piece, I presume that there would have been parameters in it that we couldn't breach it, like by 20% or something like that. Should we have breached that, we would have been or should we have breached the football earnings point of view, which we look to be comfortably within, then that would have been far more detrimental. And also, what isn't mentioned in the article here is that UEFA have put in a break clause for these sanctions that should Aston Villa be a good boy over the course of the 3 years, that they can actually exit these sanctions, this settlement early. Now, I don't know what the criteria are with regards to that, but it was interesting that that was also added within the within the settlement too. So, just to summarize here, for because there's a lot of reading there and a lot of legalese and a lot of financial wording in there that I still don't fully understand, but thanks to Chris Weatherspoon, he has broken this down. Aston Villa look like, from the football earnings point of view, to be sailing very, very well. We look to have clear seas ahead of us from that point of view. We look to probably still be above the 70% squad cost ratio, but bear in mind, the reason for that is most likely to be that we only get to bank a third of our outgoings, as my dog doesn't like it here, a third of our outgoings against the squad cost ratio for this year. Then we have another third next year and another third next year. So going forward, we will still be able to bank a third of that every year for the next 2 years after this year as well. So, once again, it is a case of future projections should be lesser as well with regards to helping us in the squad cost ratio. And as we know, squad cost ratio won't go any lower than 70% if by some minor miracle we do pull out of the bag and get back into Europe this year, at the end of this coming year as well. So I hope you guys found that informative. I thought it was a really good article. I know not everybody has a subscription to The Athletic. Please go and get a subscription to The Athletic. I think I might actually have some free 1 month free kind of trial things that I can give to people. I'll see if I have them. If you want one, drop me a DM or email for fortheloveofpaulmcgrath at gmail.com. And if I have any left, I will give them to you. Might as well you have them than to me to be looking at them. But The Athletic is quite good, is a brilliant source of reporting, and it's very in-depth reporting as well. And it's my go-to quite often for football news. So thank you very much to The Athletic for putting that together. And yeah, as I say, that's hopefully brings a small bit more clarity about Aston Villa's projected financial situation as per Chris Weatherspoon of The Athletic. We will be back later on today with Team Sheet Tantrum and with post-match podcast for Brentford in the League Cup. But until then, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the